Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ask the Pastors. Last week in our sermon in 1 Peter chapter 2 verses 1 through 3, we encouraged our congregation to text in any questions that they have about the topic, specifically on the Word of God and its role into our life. And we ran a little short on time, and so we promised you guys that we'd tackle these in our podcast. And so Todd, I got a couple questions that came in, if I can throw one your way.
Let's go for it.
All right, great question again. And it says this: shouldn't we interpret the word that we are to long for as the full revelation of God, as most clearly seen in the person of Christ, not just the text of scriptures? Christ is the word of God. So he's asking, are they in the text? Are they referring to the scriptures, the written word, or are they referencing Jesus?
Yeah, and I appreciate this question a lot. Interestingly, in favor of this view, the very beginning phrase of verse 4 is, as you are coming to him. Speaking of the Lord, that was mentioned in verse 3 when it says, since you've tasted the Lord's goodness.
That's right.
However, I'm going to maintain that the clearest contextual view is that the Word of God, the Word of the Lord, and the Word is mentioned at least 3 times in that context. And so when Paul says desire sincere spiritual milk, the pure milk, I think he's referring to the actual word about Christ or the scriptures. However, I'm never going to disagree we shouldn't long for Christ.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so I love this guy's heart, and I love what he's asking. You know, maybe I'm wrong on that. It could be that Peter is referencing Christ. I don't think, as you said earlier, the second person of the Trinity is in his mind.
Yeah.
I think what's in his mind is what Romans says, the word about Christ, the scriptures, that content of the gospel. So we could disagree on this and remain close friends, but when he says, shouldn't we interpret the word as the full revelation of God, I think we should interpret the word there in that text as the written or the scriptures. In that case, they would have heard it and had it written as a letter. Interestingly, the word is not in the original.
Right.
Isn't that interesting?
It is, yeah.
Most translations insert it. The ESV does not.
Right.
They just leave it as pure spiritual milk. So that's why there's ambiguity.
Yeah.
It's because the word is actually not in the original manuscript. So you have to kind of, at some point, land somewhere. I land that the word references the word. He may say it's Christ.
Yep. But what an astute question.
Yeah, and where do you land on that?
Yeah, I would agree with you. But I think when we see the word, we should think about Jesus. And that's what I love about the text. That this person asked this question made that instant connection. What a great student of the Bible to know that that's a thought that should come into our mind, and a brilliant question.
One other observation, we would not know about Christ if we didn't have the Word, which is the written Word, God's revelation about Christ. So if we're going to long for and see Christ to know about Him, it has, in some sense, we have to have the information about it, right?
That's right.
So God preserved, inspired, gave that to us. So it's the Word that we read to know about and how to long for Christ.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take a stance of opposition against Him.
Not at all. Yep.
But I would maintain, I think the sincere milk is referring to the Word of God.
That's good. Well, thanks so much, Todd.
Yeah.
Thanks for the questions that were sent in. I hope this was helpful. Join us again next time on Ask the Pastors.